Hello to everybody watching this. My name is Mysterio, and this is my guide to Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate is my personal favorite champion, and he's got a bit of a unique playstyle. There isn't really anyone else like him. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't other champions that are control/burst mages, but he's the only one who has a point-and-click CC based on his auto attacks.
Don't mind if I do.
We can save all that for another time, but for now, let's jump right into the guide. Now, what I'm running here for my runes are Electrocute, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ravenous Hunter, followed by Minion Dematerializer and Time Warp Tonic. Your starting item should be a Corrupting Potion and a Stealth Ward.
Looking good.
Now, when you get to your lane, of course, after you're done defending your jungle from a possible invade, when you get to your lane,
all in the card.
I typically like to start W, but I have known people to start E or Q. I think W offers a little bit more insurance, as it is your CC, your damage, your AoE, and it helps a lot with your farm. When you're in lane, you're going to be doing a lot of auto attacking against the enemy laner. That's where your main damage comes from, is your auto attacks. If they're insistent about trading with you, you can do a really quick
Always on the run.
Pick a card, and catch them by surprise.
It's my lucky day.
Now, while you're actually farming the enemy minions, you're going to want to focus on using your 3 minion dematerializers on the back line, the caster minions. This is because in the later game, when you're focused on split pushing, rather than having to use both a W and a Q to clear a minion wave, you can clear a minion wave with a single Q. Now,
eyes open.
You're typically going to use your blue card to farm and last hit.
I'm sure.
And when you're going for your trades, you're going to want to make sure you have a corrupting pot. And short things like quick autos
one of a kind.
will usually proc your electrocute and be enough to win you that trade. When you have all 3 of your abilities, this is what a usual combo would look like. You'd want to auto minions until you have your deck fully stacked.
Looking good.
And then go in for a yellow card, Q and an auto. That will proc electrocute and do the most damage. Let's
It's all in the cards.
see. Auto. Doesn't look like there's a way to do my runes, so I'll just have to continue with it like this.
Feeling blue.
Back off for a moment.
Doing
Alrighty, now let's do that combo one more time. Very smooth, very easy. Now, Twisted Fate isn't someone that you typically want to try tower diving because he has that gold card, which is a point-and-click stun. There are a few champions who are able to dodge this, for example, Zed, Fizz, and Master Yi. But for the most part, if a enemy champion dives you, or tries to dive you, you can typically get a gold card, stun them, and most likely get a kill.
Lucky them.
Now, as you're trading in lane, and your opponent gets within, let's say, about 300 HP.
Luck of the draw.
300, about 300 HP. My typical go-to kill combo, if you can catch them by surprise,
Deal 'em.
is a flash. Ooh! Oops. You usually flash, gold card, Q, ignite. And that usually looks something like this. And that will usually net you the first blood. Now, there are other lanes that are more difficult for you to deal with. Twisted Fate isn't very strong and has difficult dealing with all-in assassins like Talon, Zed, Silas, Fizz, champions of that caliber.
Mind if I do?
So your best bet is to focus on poking with your Q while using your W and E to farm safely. Now,
Looking good.
this is where the fun starts. When you hit level 6, or in this case 7, your game changes.
All in the cards.
You are now very focused on roaming, looking for ganks or low health champions in other lanes, the jungler, bot, top, and you are going to make their life very, very difficult. Now, when you ult, there's a big eyeball that shows up above your enemy. They know you're ulting, they know you're watching them. But you don't always have to follow through with your ult. So if I ult, and I go behind the mid laner, that's a successful gank on myself if my jungler were here. But you exert a lot of pressure simply by disappearing from your enemy mid's view. You could walk down here to go secure Scuttle. You could go put a ward in their blue buff. If they can't see you, you are a problem. And that is good. Now, most of your gameplay is going to consist of...
just the luck of the draw.
Yeah, we'll go here. Split pushing, because your blue card procs on towers and will do a lot of damage.
Eyes open.
If it gets to late game, the 30-35 minute mark, your blue cards will be able to 2, or depending on how far along it is, even one-shot a tower. You're also going to be focusing on isolating targets in team fights.
Charmed, I'm sure.
Let's say your allies are getting into a team fight, and let's say this is the enemy ADC.
I'm one of a kind.
You're going to focus on keeping them busy and killing them before moving on to the others, and focusing on offering crowd control to each target in priority. Typically, I go ADC. Then, if they have a very difficult to deal with support, such as a hyper carry burst mage like Brand, or let's say they have an infuriating healer like Anami, I'd go after them next, and then you can move on to the bruisers. Now, let's talk about builds. This is the part that everybody likes, and it certainly is for me, is the builds that you can do with him. Now, I personally prefer a hyper AP build, and I will typically go with a rocket belt, followed by lucidity boots, a Magi Soul Stealer, a Lichbane, and typically a Horizon Focus. Now, Horizon Focus is a very good item because it will give you 10% increased damage every time you hit an enemy with a yellow card. That doesn't sound like much, but when you're doing 10% of 1400, that's an extra 130, 140 damage. So that it adds up a lot. And the Magi's gives you very good carry potential. Now, this is just my usual build. If you're against... This is my usual build if I'm against another mage or possibly a fighter mid. If you're against an assassin, like Fizz, Echo, Zed, etc., your build's going to look a little different. You're not going to have a rocket belt, you're actually going to take an Everfrost, because the active offers you that fantastic disengage as soon as they try to go all in on you. You're also going to take a Zhonya's, and then you can usually get your Lichbane, Magi's, Hypershot, etc. If you're able to, I will typically throw in there a Cosmic Drive for the extra HP, or if you think your HP is fine and you need more damage, you can go for a Rabadon's. If they're a team that is particularly difficult to deal with due to their sustain, you can get a Morellonomicon. I do know that there are other builds that as soon as you have your Mythic, your Lichbane, and your Magi's, I know many people like to go Rapid Fire Cannon. I personally have not had that much.
It's my lucky day.
I haven't seen much of a difference. I haven't really seen how it improves the build. However, that is me personally. I do understand that passive that gives you the extra auto range can be very good, but I personally haven't found much use for it. Now, when we get to that late game, you're going to want to spend all
Dealer.
of your time split pushing and setting up picks for your team. After that, you can focus on taking the enemy's jungle if
Charmed,
you're
I'm
pushing
sure.
in waves, and just overall really trying to take the power away from them. You don't want them to be able to get gold and XP. No. I plan on doing
I'm
another one
one
of
of a
these
kind.
later on in the future. But for now, this is my basic guide to Twisted Fate. Thank you very much for watching. You guys have a wonderful day.